This is our limited series, Ask an RD, inside the Dr. Shannon Show, where we ask registered dietitians some of your most pressing nutritional questions. I'm Dr. Shannon. Welcome to the show. Hello, everyone. I've got Hope Brandt with me here, back for another Ask an RD. Today, we are talking about calorie deficit, calorie maintenance, and calorie surplus. When to be in which?
Okay, this is a great question and something that I think really needs some clarity around it. And when we're looking at kind of these three stages of your diet, and I say diet as the food that you are consuming throughout the day, it all depends on what your goals are. So the reason to be in a caloric deficit is if you are wanting to experience fat loss. Being in a caloric deficit, which means you're eating fewer calories than you burn per day. You're creating a deficit of energy expenditure. That is absolutely required to see fat loss. You have to be in a deficit to see fat loss. So that would be the only reason, really, to be in a caloric deficit. This is not a state that you want to just live your life in indefinitely. There should be a reason why you're in a deficit. And most of the time, it's to produce that specific result of seeing fat loss over time. So if you do not have a goal of weight loss or fat loss, you should not be in a deficit. Maintenance is where you're creating an equilibrium of calorie intake and calorie expenditure. This is the point where we want to live our life most of the time. And the good news is that it's a pretty large range. So we don't have to be super meticulous about like measuring or tracking where we are at maintenance. But the way to know is that you're at maintenance is that your weight is stabilized in like a 3 to 5 pound range of fluctuation, right? We're never going to wake up and weigh the exact same on the scale every day. It's totally normal to see weight fluctuations, but we want to be at a point where we're not really seeing new lows and we're not seeing new highs. We're just kind of in this 3 to 5 pound fluctuation of stability. That's how you know you're in your maintenance range. And if you don't weigh yourself, then, it's pretty much like your clothes are fitting the same and you're able to live life in a way that you're having stabilized energy throughout the day and you're just feeling good overall. Being a surplus is what is required when you gain weight, or a lot of times, if you're looking to gain muscle, it's done most efficiently when you are in a slight surplus. You don't have to be in a surplus to see muscle gain. You can see it if you're in a maintenance range, possibly even in a slight deficit if you are not a very trained individual and you have a lot of potential for muscle growth, and you're eating enough protein and you're resistance training adequately. But muscle growth is seen the most efficiently if you are in a slight caloric surplus. So if that is your main goal, or you're an athlete who's looking to put on muscle and get the most out of your training sessions and perform really highly, then being in a slight surplus may be where you need to be.
When you say slight, what does that mean?
This is like 200 to 400 calories per day over your total daily energy expenditure.
Okay, and that's the same with deficits, right? 200 to 400.
Yes, yep, depending on your adherence, your lifestyle, your overall goals, your overall, like where you are on the scale of weight versus fat loss that you're looking to see. But yeah, that's a great starting point to be in a mild deficit, 200 to 400 calories under your total daily energy expenditure.
It's really not like a huge...
It's not either way, which is why, in my opinion, being able to track to put yourself in a deficit is just the most efficient way to do it because it is so extremely hard to estimate your intake when it comes down to creating a truly sustainable deficit, which does just require some precision. Yeah. Unless, you're okay with having just a super long runway and seeing a little bit slower results.
Yeah. How do you feel, let's say someone's goal is maintenance. How do you feel about eating in a deficit during the week and then a surplus over the weekend? Like if somebody wants to maybe drink a few drinks on the weekend or eat a little looser on the weekends. What are the effects of a diet like that?
So the biggest effect in my mind is going to be the mental repercussions that kind of has in creating your relationship with food. And so I think it kind of inherently creates this restrictive mindset during the week and then this kind of cheat day mentality on the weekends, which to me does not create the most beneficial relationship that we can have to food because our needs are not super drastically changing throughout the day unless, we run a marathon one day and rest the next day, right? Obviously, expenditure and exercise does increase our need to a certain extent. But if your routine is pretty similar throughout the week, and a lot of times during the week is when we're working out and we're doing or we're in our routine in that way. And so you need adequate fuel to be able to perform well throughout the week and to feel your best throughout the week. So saving your calories to the weekend, to me is just not going to create the most beneficial dietary pattern physically, but it's also going to create that restrict binge mentality that can just be really damaging overall.
What do you think is a better way then for someone to still be able to enjoy the foods that they love on the weekends? They're going out to eat or again, drinking alcohol here and there. What's a better way to kind of balance that?
I think knowing, again, food is a natural part of socialization and enjoyment. We don't have to, strictly view food is fuel and have that be our mentality either, because food is a lot more than that. It creates celebration. It can be a source of comfort in some instances. It's a very, there's many different facets to why we eat and how we make those choices. So knowing that and recognizing that is totally okay. And I think just being super honest with what that relationship looks like during the week as well as the weekend and trying to really more so blend how those days look, where it's not weekday versus weekend. It's just 7 days of the week. And so every day we're making those choices about what's worth it to us and what's not worth it to us. And knowing that even if it's a weekend day, that doesn't mean we're off, right? Yeah. We're still making conscious choices about what is the best for us, what is actually worth it to us and what's not. And knowing that just because something is available doesn't mean that we have to partake. Right. And I think it's a lot easier to do that when we know indulgences are on the table even during the week, whenever we want them. And so it removes putting those foods or drink on a pedestal. So then it allows you to actually make the conscious choice to enjoy something when it's worth it to you, not just because it's a weekend day,
Yes. Oh my gosh. Saying that was putting it on a pedestal. That's a big unlock for me. And last night, it was just a regular Wednesday night. And I was like, I am craving a Blizzard. I want a Blizzard from Dairy Queen so bad. And I was telling my husband, he's like, I don't really want one. I'm fine. And I was like, okay, I'll wait for the weekend. And I was like, no, I'm going to go get a Blizzard right now. I'm not going to wait for the weekend because why? Yes. And I think not over glorifying these foods is really important and
Yep.
something that I think a lot of us have to shift. And I know I tend to kind of lean into that and I think like it's the weekend, like time for like whatever. And then, yeah, I think you're right. I think it creates this cycle of over restricting on the weeks during the weeks.
Well, and then, yeah, just like you were saying, where then maybe you would get to Saturday and you weren't even craving it anymore, but then it was like, but I said I would, and now I have to get one because I can't have it during the week. And it creates just all these like mental hoops that you're jumping through to make these choices all the time, when it's like, actually, you can enjoy it at the time that it's actually worth it to you, and know that 2 days from now, you might have made a different choice, and that's okay too.
Yeah, totally.
You can be able to trust yourself if you practice making these types of conscious decisions where you honor the things that are a yes, but you also honor times that it's a no, and you don't have to partake just because it's there or just because it's the weekend if it's not worth it to you.
Right. No, this is amazing. I think that could have been a whole separate episode because, wow, that was a lot of really great stuff. Okay. Thank you so much, Hope. We'll see you in the next episode.